Imagine driving a car. Suddenly, you hit a bump in the road that stops you completely. An exception in your code works the same way. Welcome everyone. In today's video, we are going to talk about Introduction to Exception in your Apex code. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with the video. Exceptions are issues that occur during the execution of a program. The program stops abruptly as soon as exception occurs. In simple programs, it stops the rest of the code from executing. In transactions, the changes made before exceptions are rolled back. As it is not a desired situation, it needs to be handled. Try, catch, and finally are the statements that we use to handle exceptions. But in some situations, we need to generate exceptions, and throw keyword is used to generate exceptions. So up to now, you might have understood that exceptions are some abnormal or undesired situations that arises in our program and due to which our program stops abruptly. In this course, we are going to talk about how we are going to handle those exceptions. Definitely, there are certain keywords that we are going to use to handle them, but we will also talk about how and why you will create your own exception. Definitely all this stuff we are not going to cover up in this video itself, but before proceeding ahead, I want to show you how an exception occurs in our program and what sort of situation occurs when any such exception is part of your program. So let's go to our org and see that practically. So right now here we are in our org, and let's quickly open the developer console. You all know for that you will click on the gear icon and click on developer console. So here we are, and let's quickly open the anonymous window. Now on this anonymous window, I am going to write down a code which will execute normally, and that will be a very simple code. So let me quickly write it out. So as you can see here, I have created two variables and assigned them with 10 and 2, divided them and stored the result in res, finally showing the result and then printing a statement written here as compulsory statement. Now definitely if I will run this program, you will get the division of 10 by 2, which is nothing but 5. So result will be 5 and then it will print compulsory statement. So let's quickly click on execute, and here on the output you can see result is equals to 5 and compulsory statement both are printing successfully. Now let me make a few change over here. What I will do is I will, instead of dividing it by 2, I will divide it by 0, and let me execute this. So right now you can see it is actually stopping the program. Something is printed over here as system.math exception divide by 0, and the program stopped. If I will click on OK, close this anonymous window, click on the logs and open the log, the last log which is showing the status as divide by 0, click on debug only, I will not find anything printed over here. So what actually happened? Here when I tried to divide a number by 0, at this statement an exception occurred. Because of that exception, the program stopped in between, and because of that, anything after this exceptional statement or after this statement which is throwing the exception, anything afterwards is not printed. That's what happens in case of exception. Now here in the other example, I'm not going to assign anything in these two variables. You all know when we don't assign anything to a variable, it is by default null. Now I'm using a math.mod over here, and here I'm passing num1 and num2, and let me execute this. Again an exception occurred. This is a different exception, definitely different from the previous one. So definitely in case of exception, the program stops in between and anything afterwards is not executed. Fun fact, the word exception comes from the Latin roots which means to take out, and that's exactly what it does. It pulls out the normal flow of the program. Now we have already seen a practical example of an exception. The similar thing is shown over here as well. So if any such statement is executed, here you can see num1 and num2 are there. I'm using math.max, passing num1 and num2 over there. Both are not having any value, and certainly we will have an exception like that. Now I want to share a tip over here. Always assume that exceptions may happen, especially in the case of external data sources, SQL statement or API calls. So if any such throwing statement is part of your program, then it will abruptly stop the program and statements following will not execute. No coder actually wants that. But there are some situations in which we want exception to occur. We will definitely talk about those situations as well, but for now, we will just focus on understanding what is an exception. Fun fact, the idea of catching exception dates back to the programming language like Lisp from 1960s. Now that marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.